Which brings us to our first interview for today, which is with Krystal Kolnik, and she's a 43-year-old mother of two teenage daughters basically, and also happily married to a second husband. And she's going to be telling us a little bit more about the book called Lessons from the Frogs I've Kissed. So she is basically the author of that, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about what the book is about and also some lessons she's learned through the book. So good afternoon, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jasmine.
I just need you to move closer to the mic.
There we go.
There we go. So, firstly, if you can just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
About myself. Okay, so I'm actually an estate agent by day, and I took on this the second job unexpectedly as an author by night. So I work for Jarvis Properties. I've been doing it for 19 years, and I suddenly find myself, having this whole new role. But I intend to stick to properties. This is just to challenge myself a bit.
Okay, interesting. So speaking about that, you wrote a book. This is your first book basically, and it's called Lessons from the Frogs I've Kissed. But what made you decide that this is the time that you would want to go on this this journey basically, and to find you happily ever after, and also to be able to share that with many other readers?
Okay, so it was more of a process. It wasn't a decision like, oh, one day I'm going to just share my story. It is definitely a process. And it started with actually going to a friend's house. I've never really dreamt about writing. I've been fascinated with writers. And she had these creativity, these guidance cards, those sets of cards. So she said, pull one. And I got the creativity card. And I was like, give me another one. That's boring. So she got write. And I read it and it said, this is your sole purpose. Whatever you do, you go. It doesn't matter what you do. Just go and start today. And I did that. I went home, pulled out my computer, and started writing my story. And then it was basically, I made a decision then and there to get it out. And it took me 4 months to do the initial draft. And it was a 4-year editing process. So it's just been a process over time. It wasn't a conscious decision. And that's sort of where I am today. So it's the end of the 4-year process. It's been edited. So now it's like at this point, okay, now I'm ready to share. And it's quite a scary process.
And also to relive all the memories or the past relationships that you've been in. So what was the writing process like? What emotions were you faced with when you started to write?
It was an amazing journey. When I started writing, firstly, after I just wrote the initial, when I made the decision to write, and I'd written the first 7 pages and I read it, firstly it was like I was reading it for the first time. So I think you get into this state of mind where you're writing. And the story was like it's being downpoured in me. It wasn't really coming through me because I'd read it with such fine detail. And I was like, how did I remember that? And then something strange happened. Life started supporting my writing. So I'd find myself writing about one of the frogs. With all due respect, one of the boys. and then I'd have a client that would look just like him, act like him, his same sense of humor from Pretoria. So I was reminded, and all the feelings came right back there. So when I was doing the initial, I knew what I was anticipating because these things would start happening. And when I did the editing process, the same thing would happen. So when I was writing about painful experiences, I knew something painful was going to happen. And I sometimes I'd put off the re-edits for ages because I was like, I can't relive that. And then at other times when I'm writing, especially about the painful, I find myself crying. And the happy parts, when I was reading about the happy parts, I was like, this is your story. Why are you crying? But it would take me into another world. So it was a very, very emotional but cathartic journey. It was cathartic. It was a healing for me, I think.
And what I want to know also, you basically got the opportunity to cleanse yourself and also to relieve all the pain that you've experienced in your life. But you also have 2 daughters that you are currently raising. And they're teenagers now, so they can read the book as well.
Yes.
So, were there any worries involved when you decided, okay, you're going to put your story out there, so your children are also at some point going to be reading this and learning a little bit more? Maybe you didn't share some of the details with them, and now they get to read through the book. Were there any risk or worries involved?
That came afterwards. I wrote it first, and it just, like I said, I wasn't planning, okay, it's going to start here and it's going to end there. The story just flowed. It was amazing, and that's why I knew it was supposed to be here. It was like it was supported. The worry is like, well, okay, well, I'm not trying to hurt any of these people. They're just part of my teachers, the men. The daughters, like, if they pick up the book and they read, I mean, I do consider it to be an adult content book. I wouldn't want my teenage daughters to read it now. They've read parts that are funny or concern them. They're like, am I in your book, Mom? So I'll read them a part of it. But it's really, I think that also the father of the children is a sensitive part because it hasn't been sticky. We've actually just come out of a legal battle, but that's the next book. So, and I'll tell you. So with that, it's a difficult one, and I really want him to know that it's been written with love. It's not written as a hate book. And I've had some emails from people, or actually from his family, a message saying, "How can you do this now? We're trying to make a family. Why are you?" And I said, "It's not a hate book. I haven't come here to like slam you. I said this is actually my journey." And the lessons that I've learned, and it's just consequential that you're one of my teachers, you know. So I think my daughters, like when they're ready, they'll read it. My family are having a hard time reading it as well. My mom's finally managed to actually read it from beginning to end, and she sort of like light-hearted in some places. She found it funny and enjoyable. But
there's a lot of humor in it. The parts that I've read already, you can see the humor also in it, and then you can basically see the storyline of the whole book also, and what you do get out. And some women are basically faced with the same situations and don't quite know how to handle it.
And they don't know they're in an abusive situation. They think it's love. So the humor is something that was very important to me because I have got a sense of humor. So I want that to come through. And I don't want it to be a heavy book. I don't want it to people to be sitting there going, "Oh gosh, another drama." I wanted to be light-hearted and quirky, and also like, I think if you cringing as a reader, if I'm making you cringe, then I'm doing it for you, and it makes you feel better about yourself almost. So I sort of took one for the team in that way. And yeah, no, it's where were we? Sorry, I forgot about
the reason actually why I decided to ask you about your daughters, and as you basically explained, because I know when it comes to teenagers, you can tell them, I don't want you to watch such TV shows or listen to such music, but you know, children, they tend to do and try to experience things by themselves. So at some point they will basically see this, and especially raising girls, we very emotional beings, and
she's picked it up. My older one's picked it up and she's put it away. So she actually rebels. Whatever I do, she does the opposite. So she won't swear in front of me, and she keeps it. I mean, she's a very good girl. So she'll read it when I'm open, though. That's the thing, is that it is written with my authentic self. I'm not trying to hide anything, and I think that the message is in there. I mean, also being in abusive relationships, you're afraid that your daughter's going to go a similar path. So not just for them, but for any woman, I want them to pick it up and go, hang on, this is what I'm going through. This isn't okay. This isn't okay. It's not going to get better. You need to get into your own self, you know. So I actually would like them to read it, but not now, when they're a bit older.
I do understand that. So I want to know, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned after having dealt with all the failed relationships to find your happily ever after, which is basically sitting here in studio supporting you, moral support. How cute.
Okay, so there's only one lesson, and this is actually the crux, and I hope it's not too much of a spoiler. But it's the greatest love of all. It wasn't about any of the men. It was falling in love with myself, and it was finding my own happiness, and it was through various meditation and actually meeting a healer, which is one of my favorite chapters. It's where all the codependent relationships, it was just I was operating on a need, and it wasn't love. And when I got into my own space and my own power, and I didn't need anyone, and it was like just that moment of feeling I'm me, and I'm okay. And from there, that love, it's the only time the love will ever come into your life. Otherwise, you're mirroring and attracting people that are as broken as you are, and that is the story. The men were improving as I was. They were just a mirror. I was the person that was like attracting those people. So the more complete I was, the more complete the person that I attract was. And I think it's very important, because women go out there, they go on Tinder, I'm broke, and then you find someone, they're just going to find someone that is as broken as they are at that time. And if someone's just come out of a divorce, let me go on Tinder, they're just going to meet the wrong kind of people, and they're going to prolong the pain. And that's what I learned when I left the first relationship. I learned that the hard way.
And then you also do get those stages where people feel, I can't be alone.
Yes.
That is the situation.
Yes.
So you coming out of your first relationship, and you've been in that for 5 years, and took everything, and you've been emotionally abused, and basically you build up the strength to move forward and just to break loose basically from that. And then you went in the second one from which is your daughter's father basically, and that whole process at first everything is nice
Amazing.
and shining
So
and so
different.
forth, and then after the baby, after you fell pregnant, things basically started to change. So do you feel it is wise for females to to make such a choice when you feel, okay, my first relationship didn't work, now the second one is just going or saying the right things, the things that I want to hear, and jumping in that? Do you feel?
That was the whole point, is that it was one relationship was just not the one before. So I was, this must be it. This is so different. And all relationships are great in the beginning. Otherwise, you wouldn't go there.
But are there warning signs that will tell you this only looks good on the outside, but once you try it on the inside?
Well, it's funny enough, the relationship with my children's father, which, I mean, you'll see it is the one that, and that one I had I felt the most love and the most excitement, and I'd never felt love for that, but it was actually that need that just come alive, like, let's do this. It was, so, I mean, the warning signs, you probably see them, people around you, people that love you will warn you and go, he's not good enough for you, and you're like, what do you know? And you cut those people out. You leave those people out of your life, and you continue on your journey, because, I mean, maybe it's not a spectator sport, maybe you have to go through those lessons yourself. But I think if you get some wisdom and maybe just reading this book and getting the insight of what love is might give you your own perspective to make those decisions. Because I don't think anyone else is going to be able to say, look, get out of your relationship, it's not good for you. Come on, get out. It doesn't work like that. But I think if you get the insight yourself and something triggers in you.
But this comes down to reality. People are faced with this firstly. So you coming out of a loving family and very supportive family as well, and you got warning signs from your brothers basically.
Yes.
They told you don't do that because we know how this is going to end at the end of the day. And he even said, I'll be the one that says I told you so. So and you falling pregnant with the first child, but you remained in the relationship. What kept you there?
What kept me there? The hope that it's going to get better. You fall in love with a person's potential. And also remember, there's a rescue theme here. So I feel like I'm going to rescue you, and one day it's going to change. I'm going to change you. Like when we have our first child, it's going to change. When we get married, it's going to change. When I have our second child, and once I'd reached all my milestones, I realized this isn't going to change. And it's also, I mean, you get to a point where it's the cake that you bake. That thing isn't going to change. Your relationship's sort of set from the beginning. And I only realized that in hindsight, and I think that's a very important lesson, that if there's one person out there that actually reads it and realizes that your relationship is not going to get better. What it is today and how it is cemented. You might be able to take, it's like I liken it, or I read something, but it's in the book, about a cake. You can take the frosting off, or you can cut a piece out, but it's set. That is the dynamic that you two make together. So, I mean, you can have another child, you can do whatever you want, you can get married. The deal's not going to get better. And that was like it's just a huge penny drop moment. Like, wow, this is it. This is the cake we bake, So doing all those things that I did, I mean, it was foolish. And I think when you read the book, and I mean, you've read some of it, thank you. I think that you might think, wow, this woman is really foolish. Like, what is she doing? And it's a true story. I was that foolish, but I was so broken. That's the best, that I was so needy that it was like I'd rather have that than actually walk away and find I didn't know how to find myself. And then the minute I was out of that relationship, I just replaced it with another one, and I knew myself even less. So you get even more needy and so fair. And I think it's a fear of being on your own. It's that fear, and that's the thing, is if you fill up your cup and you make yourself feel really, you start doing those things. I mean, I don't know, hopefully you will read the rest of it, because you'll see, filling up your own emotional cup and becoming your own person and falling in love with yourself and being the greatest person, you don't need, there's no need there. Then you're ready for true love. And your ego is normally the one that chooses those bad relationships, and your soul will know, so it's a whole different dynamic, and it was a beautiful journey.
And I'm glad that you have the courage to sit here in front of us and to share your story, and also to educate. Like I say, this is reality at the end of the day. A lot of females are faced with the similar situations, not exactly the same, but it's similar to what you've been through, where they feel, okay, if I fall pregnant, things are going to change.
Yes.
Then I don't. If I get married, things are going to change. Okay, let's try another baby. And that is
fix it. Yeah, it doesn't. It makes it worse. I mean, there's nothing that's going to ever change. The change comes from your... Okay, this sounds really cliche. Within, it does. Of course it... I mean, perhaps in that situation, if you change, or I managed to find that strength, which wasn't going to come from anywhere, perhaps they would raise their vibration, but you still remember the cake that you baked. That is, I wasn't capable of that change while I was in that cake.
Because like I say, you can't change someone else unless that person don't want to be changed. It depends on that person itself. Do I want to change? Do I want to be a better person? Do I want to grow as an individual and so forth? Yes.
And I don't think it's possible. I mean, you look at the drug addict that in the beginning. I mean, he, with all due respect, he's still there. And there's nothing I could do and say at the risk of losing everything. It's not, that's a toxic relationship. He wasn't able, he put that first. It wasn't, there was nothing, he was capable, that's the best that he could do. The question is, why am I there? They can do what they want. Why am I there? That is actually what made me write the book. It's like, wow, I've come this far. I'm absolutely, I'm happy. I'm so happy. But why did I do that?
And you went to therapy also, and that is what the psychiatrist basically asked you as well. Why are you still in this relationship?
And it was like kind of, there's a question that I think without writing the book, I wouldn't have the closure, because it was always that thing that little tick against my name in my eyes. Like, why did you do that? So now I know it is, so I could write a book.
Krystal, and then I want to know also, since we are running out of time, to tell us a little bit more about the pre-sales campaign, and that is the whole reason for you telling us a little bit more about the book, so that people can also engage and read your story and also learn from the lessons that you've been through.
So the campaign came as a second. It's not, it's like sort of second to the book writing, but when I actually got chosen to do a pitch in Johannesburg to Jacana Publishers, and it was out of that pitch, 20 submissions were chosen, which is a great honor. So it gave me the confidence that there's merit in the book, and they did say that. But I think I put too much in the editing process already and spent too much time. They wanted something more basic. So they've strongly encouraged going the self-publishing route. And there are choices that I can take with that. And Jacana Publishers, I felt quite, a good association with them. But it's expensive, and it's going to be a quality edit, a quality finish, and which is what I would like for my book. And they put it in bookshelves, even though you've gone the self-publishing route. So I just sat there and just thought, let me just do this pre-sales campaign, not a donation. You can buy my book. It's available. I look so forward to sending all the people that have supported me a copy. It's what I'm like striving for now. And I've had tremendous support. And sometimes, the day 3 was hard. It was like post-mortem. It was like just I'd given birth to this thing, and it was out there, and I was feeling, I feel exposed, I feel scared, and I have people, but they were all encouraging, and I was teary, and I noticed the people that did help me as much as the people that didn't help me, and then someone said, by the way, when you write a book, it happens to authors, you get teary, it's exposure, you're out there now. So the campaign has started, and I think in my mind I thought it'd be much easier, and I'm an estate agent, so I still want to focus on my job. I wish it would just do its own thing, but I realize that I have to keep fueling it. And it's where, if a publisher approached me now and said, listen, let me take over, I'd go, yeah, baby. So,
I don't think that is wise.
You don't? No,
I think you must
continue to nurture it, really. Okay, well, I just thought they could take not exposure, but the pressure off me somehow.
But you have the moral support.
I do.
So you don't have anything to complain about. What are you complaining about?
It's just I remember the challenge. I know. I just have to rise up. I think it is just a case of like, I don't want people to beg to read it. I want people to want to read it. So it feels like now I'm asking, please buy my book. I don't want that. I want them to go, wow, can I read that book? So.
But it's going to get to that point where when people do walk in bookstores and so forth, the book will be there, but then exactly, like they say, I don't know how the saying basically goes about the fruit after
you
everything
is fruit, you bear the labors of your fruit.
You know what I'm trying to say.
I know exactly what you mean. I can't think of it right now, but I do. No, I know. I do. I think it's a process, and the same way as it came into being, and it's the same way as it is that we're here now, you and me, and it's got its own life. And I've created this thing, and I think books can be very powerful, and I think the word can be very powerful, and I think I just have to flow. I think I just have to flow. Like, I've put it out there. I'm doing this. If someone did come and say, "Can I publish it?" I go, where do I sign? But it does. Wherever we go, it's my journey, and I'm on it, and I'm enjoying it.
Definitely, I couldn't agree with you more. So just quickly, if people want more information or want to purchase the book or want to know a little bit more about your story, how do they make contact?
Okay, well, I've got a Facebook page called Lessons from the Frogs I've Kissed. I'm Krystal Kolnik, so you can look me up. You'll see I'm very present on Facebook. My email address, I don't know if
can give it.
Should I give it to you? Should I say it out now
Yes,
on radio?
please.
Krystal, like my name, Krystal, and then dot Kolnik, KOLNIK @gmail.com. So
Okay.
I think you find me, and Instagram. I think I'm pretty user friendly. And remember, I'm an estate agent, so Property 24 too. Jarvis
So
Properties.
it's quick to get a hold of you. And then any additional words in closing?
I have to say, I love my daughters. I know Layla's listening. She's doing a rehearsal with me. And yeah, my lovely family that are listening, and my friends, and my husband that's sitting here, and to all the frogs, everyone, all the frogs I've kissed before. And to you, thank you. To the radio for this opportunity. How wonderful.
And it's only a pleasure to have you here. And just lastly, just before we go over to the news at 1 with Terry Naidu, your message that you would want to convey on to other women that are trapped in the same situation?
Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell. There is love, and you deserve nothing less. And for everyone that thinks you shouldn't be questioning your relationship. You know, there's magic that happens when you love yourself and find someone that loves you too. And no one will love you unless you love yourself.
Thank you very much, Krystal, for coming through and sharing your story. Right now, we will be going over to the news.